So we're here all the way in Oakland with Kimberly Padua, and I just wanted to ask her some questions about her Filipino heritage and what it means to her. So the first question is about her identity. Do you identify as Filipino or American or both?
I identify, I guess, as both. Because if someone asks me that question, like, what are you? I would say I'm Filipino. But if I go to another country, I say I'm from California. So in a sense, I am American. Yeah, it gets confusing kind of being in that in between, but I definitely feel like proud of my Filipino roots, but at the same time I can't really say like I grew up in the Philippines because I grew up here.
So were there times that you felt more Filipino or more American? And describe those times.
Okay, well, when I'm with my family, I'm definitely more in touch with my Filipino culture, even though I don't speak the language, but I can understand it. But if I'm like at a grocery store and someone gets excited or sees that I'm Filipino too, but then they ask if I can speak it, and I say no, but I can understand they have this disappointed look on their face and they're judging me about whether or not I can speak the language, when it's like they don't really know where it came from, but they're judging it off of like that one question, and they're like, oh, what a shame. I've gotten that just in the grocery store. But there's other times when I've felt like more in touch or learned a lot more about my culture. Like when I was in college, I did PCN, joined the Filipino club, so it was a chance to explore more about my Filipino culture, and they were like cultural dances. I felt really proud to learn some of that stuff, but at the same time I still felt kind of American because I feel like I didn't know as much as other kids who grew up like knowing more about the history or who knew the language or even lived in the Philippines.
So did you grow up with a large Filipino community, or were you just kind of the only Filipino in your neighborhood? And describe your experience.
So I grew up in Pacifica, and where I lived there weren't many other Filipinos besides my family and maybe like one or two others that I knew. So I was the only Filipino in my class, and kids would ask me like what I was, and then I said I was Filipino, and they would just respond by saying like, what is that? I've never heard of it. Like, and they would tell me that it was Chinese, and I would tell them no, I wasn't, but we were only in elementary school, so they didn't really understand. Then by like 6th grade, they insisted I was Hawaiian, probably because I was darker skinned, and they probably saw like Jasmine Trias on American Idol. So it was kind of tough trying to stand out, being like the only one. Even though where I grew up, 15 minutes from where my city is Daly City, which has a lot of Filipinos. So, I mean, my cousins grew up with more Filipino friends, and but in middle school, when my middle school closed down, and so did another one, we merged, and then there were other Filipino kids, so that was when it was nicer to see other Filipinos around, and my older classmates from like elementary school and middle school finally understood like what I was. Yeah, but other than my family growing up, I don't know what I'm saying right now. Other than that, I just really had a sense of like who I was through family.
If you had to pinpoint to the most essential aspects of the Filipino culture, like food, family, were your parents strict? Just talk about stuff like that.
I would say two big things are we're really big on hospitality. So no matter like who it is that we meet or who comes to like a family party, like we're really welcoming, and we always want like to feed them or like offer them food or something, just make them feel welcome. And I feel like that's something that I really learned from my family, and even from going to the Philippines. If you go there, and even if the family doesn't have that much, like they have to offer you food or like something to drink. It's just like a big thing that they do. And we're also known for really large families. So I don't know, I guess family parties for me have always been like, I have a really big extended family, like aunts, uncles, cousins, and usually everyone's there. They've always been like a big part of like my upbringing, and yeah, like we're also really big on food. So, and I guess one of the more, hold on, I can't think.
What's that thing with like the pig?
Oh yeah,
the pig.
lechon.
Yeah.
That's
and
funny.
lumpia, I heard that's good. I never tried it.
Yeah, they're
So
actually, those are the two of the big staples, or like more well known. I actually had a family party yesterday, and we had one of those big giant roasted pigs and lumpia. Everyone loves lumpia. And there's always like, family always wants to feed you. Or I feel like if you say you're like not hungry, they'll insist, like they'll think something's wrong, and they'll ask you if you're on a diet. So that's a big thing for us. Even, we were at the park for this family party, and there were like park rangers driving by, just kind of like cleaning up, and then my mom and my aunts, like, they invited them to come eat too. Like, we don't even know them, but it's just they're working and we're having a party and we have food, so they just invited them out, and they took a couple plates, and even the guy knew what lechon was. I couldn't tell if he was Filipino, but they were really into it. They're probably like super, I don't know. I just think my family's always been very friendly, and that's something I feel like I've taken after.
So is there anything you want people to know about being Filipino American, or just the Filipino culture in general?
I'd say we're very happy and we're very loud and proud of who we are. But one thing that was very difficult growing up in a community that wasn't really predominantly Filipino was I didn't really get to learn about the history of Filipinos and until like I had to learn about it through my brother or on my own. If you look in the history textbooks that they have in high school, even though Filipinos are a really big part of U.S. history, we're written out of it. And like the veterans are still fighting for their rights, and that really sucks. But it's definitely, I think, something that we should offer or like try to incorporate into either high school curriculum or just find a way for it to reach out so that people can kind of be more aware of their roots. Not all Filipinos are nurses, and we all don't love to sing karaoke and dance, even though we're really good at it.